Camera, light, and sound. We are good to go. A lot of non-Muslims come to me thinking that Islam is this kind of scary, right-wing, ultra-constructive religion, probably because of the things they've seen on YouTube. People on the left have been criticizing Islam for being too right-wing to their taste, saying that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was a warlord, he was against women's rights. People on the right have been criticizing Islam for being too left-wing to their taste. Islam is against the banking system, that the Prophet had too many wives and was promiscuous. I mean, you know the narrative really. Hello and welcome. My name is William. I am a sociologist at the University of Warwick in the UK. And to me, as a sociologist, right-wing, left-wing don't make much sense because these are all social constructs, labels, if you like, that people have invented to try to vaguely define what we observe as political trends. I don't believe there is any political system nowadays that is completely fair anyways. For this video, I welcome constructive comments. However, if you want to write down some hateful comments, please do so, because any hateful comments boost my engagement rates by 10 times. So thank you very much for your contribution. What do we mean by left-wing and right-wing? Let me try to oversimplify things. The left has been usually associated with social protection, collective responsibility, and social liberalism, meaning that people are free to live however they like. However, the state should be the main responsible for people's well-being. Right-wing politics have usually been associated with individual responsibility, hierarchy, and cultural conservatism, but economic liberalism, another term for deregulated finance, if you like, which means people should abide by social norms and hierarchy and authority. However, they are free to make money however they like. But when it comes to Islam, you probably know that there's a reason why Islam is called the religion of the middle way. Just for fun, let's have a look at right-wing elements in Islam. First, there is a sense of individual responsibility. You probably know the saying, God cannot change a people unless they change themselves. Armed defense is authorized. You can defend yourself against an oppressor. It is allowed and encouraged to set up your own business, to flourish economically. Of course, there is a balance to this. Elements of cultural conservatism with the prayer, with the pilgrimage, because these are reminders first to who do we pledge allegiance to, so God, and a reminder about the history of the monotheism. Islam has banned intoxicants for recreational purposes. Killing of innocents is forbidden. Abortion is forbidden. Islam prescribes modesty for women and for men. Even as men, we cannot show like all the parts of our body. There is no such thing as casual dating. And there is a sense of hierarchy, meaning that, of course, God is above everyone, but in a group of people, it is allowed to elect a leader, that's to say. But then there is also consultation and consensus, and with a huge asterisk, because things that are forbidden can be allowed in extreme circumstances. For example, if you have to save a life. But what many people on the internet got wrong is that Islam never excluded people on the basis of their social or economic class or status, their tribe, their caste, their ethnicity, and so on. In the last sermon, the Prophet mentioned that a non-Arab is not superior or inferior to an Arab. People are equal except for good deeds. Historically, whether people were either homeless, they were slaves or former slaves, once they were welcomed in the Islamic community, all of them were treated equally and had a say in the processes of consultation. Very much contrary to modern right-wing politics, Islam was, to the opposite, very, very inclusive. Now again, just for fun, what could be left-wing elements in Islam? As previously said, there is no stratification in Islam. Class, caste, tribe, ethnicity, wealth don't mean anything for God. You cannot buy your ticket to paradise. Not only Islam has established social and racial equality, but also the fact that success cannot be measured by figures. It cannot be measured with money, which is very much against the right-wing general idea that the society should be stratified and that success should be measured in monetary gains or material possessions. Islam forbade usury and gambling, so these are market regulation against left-wing politics. Islam imposed zakat, and imposed people to share their wealth with the poor, with the orphans, with widows. So this is a kind of social security system for you. Islam established the freeing of slaves. And many would argue that Islam was very much opposed to women's rights. To this, you just need to read a little bit of the religious text and know that in pre-Islamic Arabia, families would bury their baby daughters alive because it was very negative to have baby daughters. And Islam completely forbade that practice. And there is even some Muslims nowadays saying that Muslim women shouldn't have a career or an education. And if you look at the history of the revelation, the first scholar of Islam was a woman, and even Khadija, the wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him, was a very successful businesswoman. And when she proposed herself the Prophet, who was very poor at the time, he declined. But eventually they get married, and Khadija became the breadwinner in the couple. It is also very well documented that you have female companions of the Prophet who took part in battles, who did the hijrah alone. Many right-wingers hearing these facts would judge Islam as being very feminist, or the Prophet being effeminate, being weak to be a breadwinner. And to finish, an extreme case of left-wing politics. You have many verses in the Quran, in the traditions, about how it is our duty as humans to preserve the natural environment. Now there is a very good reason why Islam was so balanced, because all these political systems taken apart, they have their own limitations. You probably know the saying that you can bring a horse to the water, but you cannot force the horse to drink the water. If we turn left-wing politics to overdrive, it means that the state and the collectivity should be building all the structures to force the horse to drink, actually, while it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't leave people any autonomy. You don't allow people to build the tools and the resilience to get out of harm by themselves. In Islam, there is a concept of shared responsibility. There is a collective responsibility, but there is also an individual part in the responsibility. There is free speech. You can say whatever you like, but be careful not to abuse your language. Be careful not to offend people, because it is said that, a Muslim shouldn't be feared for his tongue or his hands. And at the same time, people who are on the receiving end of abuse, they have a responsibility. They have the right not to engage with abusers. They have a right to build boundaries, to take their distances, or even to defend themselves, and they can choose, between being merciful or holding the oppressors to account. So yeah, there is collective care, but there is also, it leaves people some autonomy. Now, if we turn right-wing politics and the concept of individual responsibility into overdrive, this also causes problems. Because if everyone is to blame for their own problems, it means that the perpetrators are not held to account. You probably have heard phrases such as women who are victims of rape, they were looking for it, or if black teenagers are killed by the police, it's because black people are too violent. Phrases like, if Palestinians are oppressed, it's their own fault, or if children are abused in the mosque, it's because it's bad parenting, the parents are too negligent, it's not the fault of the imam. And these are all things I've heard during interviews, people telling me these kind of things. Let me repeat that again. If Palestinians are oppressed, it's their own fault. If children are abused by the imam, it's because the parents are negligent. It's not the fault of the imam. So if you extrapolate, the people who threw stones at the Prophet at Ta'if, it's the fault of the Prophet, maybe. So you see how absurd it can become if you push this to the overdrive. In Islam, if people perpetrate crimes, they are held to account. There are consequences to their crime in this life or in the hereafter. Again, examples of shared responsibility. Stealing is forbidden. However, it is also prescribed for people not to wear ostentatious clothes. It is forbidden for men to wear gold, because we never know what can happen on the streets, but not every human being follows Islam. Not every human being is respectful of other human beings. So better safe than sorry. If you follow Islam, you don't walk the streets flaunting your Rolex or your designer clothes. You are free to roam the streets, you are free to dress and have some creativity in the way you dress, you present yourselves. But the message is very simple, just be careful. because not everyone around you control their impulses. So back to right-wing, left-wing Islam. I think, many people believe that Islam is very right-wing because of, I guess, what is fed to them by the algorithm now in 2023. It's just what's trending at the moment. And I've made a video about how Google sees Muslims, and is the same explanation. What causes controversy, what makes people talk, gets trending. And sadly, it's only controversial or shocking things that reach the top of your feed. Because at the end of the day, Islam doesn't abide by any framework created by humans, especially not those which have been created after the Industrial Revolution. Just like the very concept of religion, a concept much older. I've made a video and written books and written articles about this. People have written about this. The concept of religion doesn't fit what Islam is. So this was an exercise just for fun, but let's be careful, because Islam cannot fit the boxes that we humans are designing for it. It's something which is much wider, much more complex. What we can try is to simplify things, but let's be careful not to copy and paste the concepts we hear into something which is much broader and much more complex and nuanced than what we want to believe sometimes. I hope this video was useful. Thank you very much for watching, and again, please take care of yourselves and each other.